Welcome back to Let's Draw series, and today's topic of discussion is radicular cyst. Radicular cyst is an inflammatory cyst of odontogenic tissues. It is the most common cyst which makes up for approximately 1/2 to 3/4 of all the cysts in the jaws. Associated with non-vital tooth, it's a very characteristic feature. The teeth associated will be having a large carious lesion or may have a large restoration, or it may be a traumatized tooth. Most commonly, the anteriors will be a radicular cyst associated with the traumatized tooth. Radicular cyst is seen in association with maxillary anteriors, most commonly, followed by maxillary posteriors, then mandibular posteriors and mandibular anteriors. Radicular cyst is called radicular cyst because this cyst is associated with the root portion of the tooth. So you can see based on which portion of the root it is associated with, it has that name. If a cyst is seen in the periapical region, it is called as periapical cyst. If a cyst is seen in association with the lateral canals that we see here, and those cysts are called as lateral radicular cysts. Sometimes the cyst will remain even after the removal of the tooth. After the extraction, if the cyst remains, it's called as residual cyst. This cyst should not be confused with paradental cyst, which is also a lookalike, which is an inflammatory cyst also associated with root portion but seen with vital tooth. This is how a paradental cyst looks. This is mostly the location of the paradental cyst, and it is not associated with the tooth which is having a necrotic pulp. Now let's understand the pathogenesis of radicular cyst, that is how this cyst forms. There are 3 phases in the progression of radicular cyst: phase of initiation, phase of cyst formation, and the phase of cyst expansion. Let's deal with stage of initiation first. Now I've drawn this portion as the supporting structure, and this is the tooth with its pulp chamber and root canal, and I will draw the alveolar bone here. Also part of it close to the tooth, we'll consider it as periodontal ligament. So here we draw the alveolar bone. We'll just label this as alveolar bone so that we remember that we have drawn alveolar bone. And this is the area of periodontal ligament. And in the periodontal ligament, we have few rests of molasses, which are the rests of Hertwig's epithelial root sheath. So we'll label it as cell rests of molasses. Now we'll affect this tooth with dental caries. So this is dental caries. Now when there is a dental carious lesion, the bacteria release toxins, and these toxins spread to the pulp region and to the periapical region. When these toxins reach periapical region, they produce inflammation. And this inflammation from the periapical tissues will be tried to ward off, and that causes the formation of periapical granuloma. When the periapical granuloma persists, there will be fueling to the inflammation, and these inflammation will release cells such as lymphocytes, macrophages, and the plasma cells. These lymphocytes release cytokines. These cytokines further activate macrophages, so more number of macrophages, which release cytokines again. So a lot of cytokines we have in the area. Plasma cells release immunoglobulins, which act on the blood vessels, making them leaky. So more lymphocytes and inflammatory cells are released, fueling further the situation. And all these cytokines, these immunoglobulins, etc., act on the cell rests of molasses and bring about proliferation of these cells. Further, this inflammation acts on the stroma, and this stroma releases keratinocyte growth factor, which causes activation of cell rests. It acts on the cell rests of molasses, bringing about proliferation of these cells too. So that's how we have a big mass of proliferating epithelial cells in this periapical region or the lateral region of the tooth associated with lateral canal. Let's go to the next phase, that is phase of cyst formation. Here there are two theories. Okay, the fun goes that this is the connective tissue area, and there are the cell rests of Malleus, which because of inflammation have started proliferating, and they are just going on proliferating, increasing in number so much so that this becomes a big mass of epithelial tissue. So we'll just go on adding lot of epithelial cells. So as this cell mass is increasing, what happens is the central mass of cells, here we are adding on a lot of cells here, and now the central mass of cells are deprived of nutrition because the blood vessels cannot supply the nutrition to the center. So these cells undergo liquefactive necrosis. So they start degenerating here. So you can see that cells are dead here, leading to formation of a lumen. And once the lumen is formed, because of the cell debris, there will be fluid inflow. All that we will be learning in cyst expansion. So here is the fluid. So this is the epithelial lining, the lumen with the fluid. And then we have the, let's erase this part first to make space for the writing, labeling of connective tissue wall. Okay. So we'll just take another pencil to draw the connective tissue wall. Now this is one theory. Second theory says that there will be cavities in the periapical granuloma. We know that there is already a pre-existing periapical granuloma, and inflammation is persisting there, and there the Hartwig's epithelial root sheath cells will start lining the existing cavity and form a true cyst. So again, because of the degenerated cell inside and osmosis, etc., there will be fluid inflow. Again, here there is the lumen, the connective tissue wall, and the epithelial lining. Now let's understand cyst expansion. First, let's draw the cyst to understand this concept. Here is the cystic epithelial lining. Around this we have the connective tissue wall and the central portion, that is the lumen with its luminal content. Now that we have drawn the cyst, let's learn the reason for expansion of the cyst. First is the epithelial proliferation. Here, because of the persisting inflammation, the epithelium continues to proliferate, which exerts pressure on the surrounding bone. And here, this is the surrounding bone, alveolar bone. These are the bone marrows. And this bone, because of the pressure from inside, will undergo resorption. The second point is the stroma, which releases collagenases, the enzymes, which again bring about the bone resorption. Third is the inflammation itself. It's an inflammatory cyst, which these inflammatory cells, let's draw the inflammatory cells in the stroma. Here, these are the inflammatory cells, lymphocytes, etc. They release cytokines, and these cytokines are also osteoclast activating factors, etc. They bring about bone resorption, they bring about epithelial proliferation, etc., eventually leading to bone resorption, and that leads to expansion. The most important one is the increased osmosis, that osmotic pressure, and also increased hydrostatic pressure of the cystic content, because of the breakdown products inside the cystin, protein content, etc., will increase the pressure, and that brings about bone resorption, and this brings about cyst expansion. Let's quickly understand another concept here. Here is the first scenario where there is a cyst attached to the apex which is not open to the root canal. So it's called as true apical cyst. And here's another tooth with the periapical radicular cyst or periapical cyst, where the cystic lumen is open to the root canal, and it is called as apical pocket cyst, or also known as Bay cyst. Periapical cyst, periapical granuloma, and periapical abscess, all these are associated with radicular portion, especially the periapical region. So how do we differentiate them? So we'll start with periapical cyst, periapical granuloma, and periapical abscess. So in a radiography, all these appear as radiolucencies in the periapical region, and here the periapical cyst, the radiolucency in the periapex, the size will be more than 1.5 centimeter. If it is more than 1.5 centimeter, we call it as periapical cyst, whereas if a size of the radiolucency is less than 1.5 centimeter, we call it as periapical granuloma, and both these lesions will be well defined radiolucencies with sclerotic border. Whereas periapical abscess, we see the radiolucency in the periapical region which is ill defined with irregular border. So this is how we can differentiate between these periapical lesions. Now coming to the histopathology of radicular cyst. Just like any other cyst, it will have three components: a lumen lined by the epithelium, third the connective tissue wall or the capsule. Let's start with lumen. The lumen contains the cystic fluid which can be watery or opalescent, more viscid in some cases, yellowish color or straw colored fluid, sometimes shimmering gold in cases where the cholesterol crystals are present inside, and the protein content of the cyst is high, which will be seen as eosinophilic amorphous material in an HND stained section. When we see something, we remember better. So here I have shown you two test tubes, one with straw colored cystic fluid, this is the one, and the other one which has the shimmering gold because of the cholesterol crystal suspended. This is just to show you how these cystic fluids would appear in a test tube of the radicular cyst. Here you can see a slide which is cholesterol crystals on it. The cystic fluid has been put on the slide called as wet mount, and we can see the cholesterol crystals with the notched edges. This is the classic presentation of cholesterol crystals, glassy pieces with notched edges. Now let's learn about how epithelial lining of the radicular cyst is seen. Epithelial lining of radicular cyst shows a very characteristic feature called as arcading pattern. Here is how the epithelium is proliferating into the connective tissue. All these are the epithelial cells around these spaces which will have the connective tissue there in those spaces. And so this is the lumen, this is the epithelial lining, generally 6 to 10 cell layers, non-keratinizing epithelium which shows in rings or net-like pattern called as arcading pattern. Why is this epithelial proliferation called as arcading pattern? It's because of the arcades that it resembles. These arches that we are seeing here, the epithelial proliferation resembles these arches or the arcades, and that's why the name arcading pattern for the epithelial proliferation in radicular cyst. Here, this is the connective tissue part. I'm just trying to draw a rough image of this, and this is the connective tissue wall. So this is the, let's just label these parts, the connective tissue wall and the entrapped connective tissue around which the epithelium proliferates in arcades. Another important characteristic feature that we see in the epithelium of radicular cyst are the hyaline bodies or the Rushton bodies. These are curvilinear or hairpin shaped structures, amorphous eosinophilic structures. There are two schools of thought for their origin. One keratinocytic origin, the other one is the hematogenous origin. So these are the hyaline bodies or the Rushton bodies. Next is the epithelium which may show some variations. The epithelium may undergo metaplastic change and form mucus cells, and this is few mucus cells that I have drawn here. And sometimes the epithelium, the cyst which is close to maxillary antrum can show ciliated epithelium. So this is the pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium. So let's just draw that, label that. This is pseudostratified ciliated epithelium. So these are the varieties of epithelium that we can see lining the cystic cavity of the radicular cyst. And we can see the inflammatory cells, that is transmigration of inflammatory cells into the epithelium. The true contrast is not good. So let me use another pencil. So here are the inflammatory cells in the epithelium. So let's just label this. This is inflammatory cells. So these are all the components of epithelium that we see. So understanding this will help you in drawing the diagram better with H&E pencil. Now let's see what do we see in the connective tissue wall or the capsule of the radicular cyst histopathologically. Here is the epithelium and the connective tissue wall that I have drawn roughly. We can see that this capsule is made up of collagen fibers. Basically it's a fibrous stroma with blood vessels. So we can call it as fibrovascular stroma. So we see a lot of blood vessels which these blood vessels are fueling the inflammation, and we see the inflammatory cells, PMNLs initially and later a lot of chronic inflammatory cells. So these are blood vessels, inflammatory cells. Another characteristic feature of the cyst wall are the cholesterol clefts. These are basically cholesterol crystals which are dissolved during processing. So this is how they form the needle-like structures in the stroma. This is the cholesterol clefts. These cholesterol clefts we can even see sometimes inside the lumen. Next we see the bone resorbing and forming bone. So there is a bony reaction to this cyst expansion while it is expanding, and we can see histopathologically this resorbing bone too. So here is the bone. And we also see another characteristic feature due to the presence of plasma cells, eosinophilic refractile material called as Russell bodies. These are the gamma globulins released from the plasma cells, which are again inflammatory cells. Sometimes we see giant cell reaction to these cholesterol crystals. So these are the giant cells which kind of arrange themselves in the form of a legume, because of which the area of the granuloma where we see these giant cell reactions, it's called as pulse granuloma. So these are the giant cells, and this kind of arrangement is called as pulse granuloma or the seed granuloma. We also see some calcifications in the connective tissue wall around the dead and degenerating tissues, that is called as dystrophic calcifications. So all these are the structures that we see in the connective tissue wall of radicular cyst. Understanding this should help you in learning the drawing better, doing the drawing better. Now coming to the treatment aspect of radicular cyst. There are various ways the radicular cyst can be handled. One, if this is a cyst which is associated with a very grossly decayed tooth and a large lesion, better would be to extract the entire tooth. So here is a diagram showing a forceps. Pardon my diagram, it's just so that you will remember better if it is shown through a drawing. So that is an extraction forceps, and we extract the tooth with periapical tissue curettage. The infected material will be removed with curettage. Next, if this tooth is not very badly damaged, if we can save the tooth, then we can do an endodontic treatment, that is RCT, root canal treatment. This is a endodontic file. And the periapical lesion will heal slowly. So this is root canal treatment for this lesion. Next is, if the lesion is too large, then endodontic surgery is advised. So too large a lesion, endodontic surgery. So these are the treatment options for radicular cyst. This explanation should help you to draw better the histopathology diagram. So the next video is histopathology diagram drawing of radicular cyst. Please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Thank you. See you all soon. Bye.